for the more kind of the Zhonya's second style. It's not quite the Frozen Heart second, then full tank Rift Maker that we like to see on a lot of the durability packs, which I would like to see teams pivot to because it's very potent. I think it's one of the reasons why this pick is so strong. No surprise, Vitality.Bee takes Ballista, like we said. The Gangplank also taken away from Go. And I think more of the same. I think Go is a team you kind of have to ban Lucian against them as well. Smiley very prominent as well. You obviously saw them play Lucian Nami. I believe it was in their second or third game. I would expect the final ban for Vitality.Bee to be that, but then obviously the danger is you do give the pick of the litter, or the pick of the juicy bones in terms of your junglers. They kind of can take whatever they want. You could see Kareem has heavy prior on the Viego. I don't expect that to change here. It should be the Viego lock in first for Kareem. Maybe they understand that Vitality.Bee might have some preparation into that, but I don't see any problem if it's worked so far. Interesting enough, they do actually go for Wukong. That's the first time we've seen them pivot towards that. In response, I am expected to see, although in China and a lot of regions like that, you do see that the Wukong is kind of answered somewhat by the Viego in terms of what you can do on it. But I would be interested to see whether Vitality.Bee pivots into a different direction. They do. They go Twitch and the Viego, which now means Go are kind of locked in a position here whereby you have to really take stock of the fact that Vitality.Bee have a very potent R3 Renata lock in here. Do you take that away? Do you look for a counter? They're looking like they're going towards Rakan.
Rakan has been a very good answer to Twitch so far in the LFL. This pick it was played against Crownie, and it was played up against it wasn't Jessica, it was somebody else, but it had a really good time spotting when the Twitch opened up and just stopping it in its tracks. And it did cost Twitch a fair few lives. Rakan is an answer that we see very frequently into the Twitch. I'll be curious about Jessica's positioning and how well he can maneuver himself around the fact that Rakan will be able to stifle the open that engage and stop it in its tracks. We do get Ashe Rakan picked up here, so a certainly very different ADC. I like Ashe to potentially bully out in the laning phase. I'm expecting this to be the farming Ashe. We got to see something a little bit different from Codyson yesterday, where he went Spectral Sickle Ashe, but I think that this is going to be likely very farming oriented, giving you Rakan support. The Vitality.Bee here, they've got that option of the Renata, like you alluded to. They could also go for something like the Lulu, but it is just that lock-in on 3, setting themselves up quite nicely for it with the Twitch, first of all.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see some blinds taken away here. Probably a Gnar ban. You probably want to take away the Victor as well, maybe. I'd imagine for Ronaldo. Unlikely they're going to pivot into that Karma style, for example. Don't think that's on the table. I think a lot of the flexibility of that is in a lot of the power in that is in the flexibility rather. I'm going to take away Akali for Nuku. For me, that makes sense. Actually, it's not something I'd accounted for. Actually, I think if you don't get the it's a beneficial matchup, he can look very good.
Setting up for Gwen, with Akali taken off the table, potential Camille ban to come through as well. Go kind of have to see if they're reading this, because Gwen's a pick that's just seemingly gone by the wayside. I don't think we've seen a single Gwen game today. There have been a couple of bans, but so far it's not been as prevalent up in that top side. There you go. They see the Akali ban, they have to ban the Gwen in response because new answer. Quite nice to see this little adaptation and the teams adapting to one another. Still curious about what the rest of Vitality.Bee can go for. Obviously looking towards some magic damage sources from somewhere. They've got 2 very heavy hitting AD champions. They do also have this option to allow Jessica to go AP. It is worth mentioning that AP Twitch is still viable. I would not go as far as to say that it is as good as AD Twitch, but it is an option if they get particularly shoehorned into that manner.
Yeah, I feel like if they get put into a corner there, like you're saying, it is maybe an option. I think traditionally with the Renata, you want to be at that hyper carry, get that space for it. Obviously, not Fear Beyond, but whatever the Renata's W is called, I can't.
Bailout.
Bailout, that's what. Obviously, use that means that you kind of get in these positions whereby you open up with the Twitch and then you have that extra safety, that extra life. That little bit of extra time to finish off that kill to obviously be resurrected is very, very strong. This is sort of like the Kalista Renata lane that we see, but it's more the hyper scaling version, whereas the Kalista you can kind of obviously pull it out early. The different thing that's been opted towards. I'm expecting to see, blind pick for Diplex here, Silas. Something he played a lot of at EU Masters play-ins. I remember him playing up against EGN in the playoffs of the play-ins and just absolutely demolishing on this. Not surprised that he's picking here, but I'm expecting to see a counter pick from Ronaldo here. Zoe would be interesting.
Yeah, this is a great Zoe pick. This is a preventative measure to get rid of an Ahri pick, because Ahri has tended to be the blind pick of choice, or at least what we may have expected from any team in particular. Ronaldo's also had a very good Zoe performance. It also doesn't have a great ultimate to steal, right? Silas with one portal jump is like, do I care? Not particularly. So, you know, this Zoe pick, I certainly expect to see it get locked in. Does have a couple issues potentially in the early stages, but getting later on, you just have to buy space. You have to be spaced out, and I want to see Ronaldo keep this Ignite actually, because you can duel early on the Zoe. If you get Spell Thief at level 2 and get lucky with some drops, you can very easily bully a Silas in the early stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can tell there's a bit of hesitation even with that Zoe pick, given that they'd already hovered it and they kind of gave themselves a little bit of more time to think, is this the pick for us here? I think it does enable that pick potential here, but we see the R5 Ornn, I feel like has a decent matchup into your Graves. Your Graves is going to be more wanting to try and, stifle out and just get those waves pushed in. It's seen as a neutralizer in a lot of matchups. I don't think Nuku is going to quite have the performance he's had against other tops. Again, they're actually opting in for a different style. We've spoken about how 3 games on the Gangplank, only 1 game on the Gnar that isn't really the carry champion. This is our first tank Shigenda game. Ornn, a champion that, like, different teams have different levels of priority towards. LDLC, for example, our best team in the league at the moment, will B1 it, but then other teams, it doesn't get picked very often. I've been assured by Yike from LDLC that it's the most broken champion of all time. I'm not entirely sure. I think it definitely has its benefits on the durability patch. I can imagine it's only got stronger. But it's nice to see R5 here. I feel like it does stonewall into what Team Go have built here, for example. I feel like it's going to provide a lot of utility. But I think it's needless to say that a lot is falling upon the responsibility of what this Twitch can get done.
I think that their engagement certainly, you want to see this nice and synced up. Vitality.Bee have certainly got a lot of engagements to get going. We'll have to see if they can execute on those engages, though. That is for sure.
See you soon. We are on to the Rift now for our game of the week. It is Team Go versus Vitality.Bee. This is your middle of the table affair. I say middle of the table, it's rather strange to call it that, where there are so many teams stacked at 4-1, stacked around that 3-2 mark. This is now the time for Go to bounce back. Having impressive results against certain teams, but faltering somewhat in their game 1 of this week. Set them down to 3-2. Vitality.Bee suffering their first loss also in the previous game, as the wonderful starlight here is lit with the embrace of what is about to unfold. And what is about to unfold, Rude Dude?
Well, level 1 Twitch. That's what's about to unfold. Jaskler, I think you get the little exclamation mark whenever you get spotted, and recognizes that there's either somebody in that bush or they placed a very early pink ward. Likelihood is it's going to be somebody in there. But for the duration of the game, I want to talk about Go's composition a little bit here, because they actually have very good pick tools and engage tools. We've got Wukong Rakan to act as those frontliners that can go forth and try and start out team fights. We've also got Zoe and Ashe to be those pick tools to spot somebody a little bit off guard, potentially spot Jaskler too far forward, and then collect on a kill, collect on somebody who's, like I say, a little bit too far forth. You can get popped once again here, but a late invade from Go here. It is going to be spotted out. I wonder what Vitality.Bee's response to this is.
I like this. This is a similar setup to what we saw yesterday from Vitality.Bee, which ended up being a part of their demise, is that now you have a situation whereby Skeens, he's not on the Lilia today. He has to kind of forego his camps here. He's not going to be able to clear down in a linear way, utilize that tempo, and then reverse clear upwards. Kareem's actually doing an adaptation here. He knows that Vitality.Bee's bot lane can't exactly forego this wave. You see Nuki go for an aggressive trade here. Shigenda really getting bullied out, actually. But now, look at Kareem here. Kareem is able to get 2 camps instead of the 1. Shigenda just able to even enter this lane. Extra turret shot makes it a little bit easier for this trade going forward.
He's got fleet footwork, he's got 3 potions and biscuits, though. This is a Graves that he's going to be looking to bully, and now Shigenda's got access to the wave. It becomes a lot more difficult because he can just sort of sit in it and never really get tagged. Make sure that those Graves pellets are, tagging the minions as opposed to the Ornn himself. But that was the sort of issue with having to leash on the top side for Shigenda. He didn't get access to the lane, and Nuku sat in that tri-brush at level 1 and has continually been bullying him. He doesn't care that he's missing farm because he's making Shigenda miss experience, which is much more valuable. You can see at this point in the lane, a top laner would be level 2. Shigenda, obviously having being zoned off, Still, with those first 3 melee creeps going down, not dinging over, you can see now that Skeens can make his way
aggressively.
up here, and needs to be careful. This should just be a quick kill, honestly.
He's gone aggressively for the level 2 there. Has Shigenda goes in for the opted trade. Nuq quite low mana. It's a great E in forward, but Skeens has to flash as well. Nuq can't quite find it. E's away, playing with the wave now. Shigenda's going to find a Q, and that should be all she wrote on that. Kareem's in though. He gets the return kill from the Wukong. The wave is,
he has to try and push really this wave. Look at the wave state. You mentioned it. It is very bad right now, and you know the job for Kareem right now, try and get this under the turret as best as possible. And on even this, unfortunately, just at this early stage, won't be able to hold that many minions, but he's going to get a massive influx of experience, a massive influx of gold as soon as that wave crashes on in, and he's able to pick up all of those minions. And overall, a good attempt by Nuq, but just not quite respecting the timing of Skeens. Does get punished for it. Love to see that from the Vitality.Bee jungler. You could tell that Kareem was booking it up to that top side. He was unfortunately just a little too late. And you know the wise play from Nuq on the top side does get punished. I think that we've seen from Nuq a little bit as we get more into this split is that tendency to be just a little too far over the edge and get caught out accordingly.
I mean, one of the major problems about staying over that edge is sometimes you don't know what's going to be waiting for you. Unfortunately, this time it is Skeens. I think this is a bad thing because in terms of the setup that Go has gone for here, they foregoed an early kind of full clear from the Wukong in terms of splitting the map and make it so that Skeens has to play towards his top side, but unfortunately he gets to play for his top side and also get a slight advantage. The only saving grace from that is obviously that Wukong gets the return kill, but I feel like Go wanted a little bit more from the way they set up the map.
Yeah, and at this point as well, it now for Sagenda no longer matters. That level 1 through level 3 mark is so important for a Graves to try and establish control and make it difficult for the Ornn. Honestly, just off the back of first bases and the fact that Sagenda's been able to get a little influx of gold, it's like a Jace versus Malphite matchup, where at this point, the Malphite is already too tanky. The Ornn is already too tanky, and now bot lane are in trouble.
He's going to engage off to the side here, but Wagner going to be able to W over the wall. Jack, can he find a stun? Yes, he can. Summoners might have to be burned here. Smiley goes quite low. Teleport. Sorry, not teleport. W is found onto Smiley there. He has to heal at the end there.
And really good timing. Skeens' ganks have been very well worked, and the Go squad have not been respecting this. Bot wave pushing in immediately. Skeens there. Top lane pushing in from level 2. Skeens is there to respond. Go haven't had wards down to stop this from happening, and so far this has just been 2 ganks that have given over to Skeens. The first one nets him first blood. The second one nets him summon a heal in a very good position in the wave or his bot lane. Thus far, either the tracking from Go hasn't been too prevalent, or Go just haven't been aware.
Yeah, completely. And I think one of the things we have to touch on in just terms of how these compositions are built, and especially just stylistically how the teams play. Vitality.Bee are a team, you allow them to scale out of the early game just as a team. They have very clean mid game, one of the cleanest mid games that we see in the league. They've also got on top of that a team that I believe is a lot stronger in the late game. I think that Go's composition, what it can do is offer a lot of hope in terms of you have the Zoe, you have the Ashe, you have the Rakan if you find an isolated target, and you build that numbers advantage. But in a straight 5-on-5 with this Twitch and 4 items or so, it's going to be really difficult for Go to kind of acquiesce and build up towards the demands of what this Vitality.Bee composition is going to be throwing at them.
Quite right. Go really want to put their foot down early on so they can generate some leads. I think that mid-tier 1 turret is a pretty big goal of theirs. It's why I'd like to see them try and focus a lot towards the Herald. I think that whenever you've got a Zoe on your team, you want to be trying to take down that enemy's mid-tier 1, and up against Diplex as well. Not necessarily the fact that it is Diplex, more so that he's playing the Sylas. You do have that opportunity to try and bully early on. You can see Ronaldo already a little bit up in farm, potentially trying to take some turret damage down as well, because a tier 1 turret down in the mid lane frees up Zoe. The more terrain you have access to, the more you can go wandering into the enemy's jungle. It gives way more agency to the Zoe. She's a much better champion from ahead than behind.
Completely. You can see Jessica and Jack Troll trying to just stop that wave from being crashed in. Go and Smiley still locked in lane just for now.
Look at the CS top lane, by the way. Got given 1 gank, and now Sagenda's absolutely fine.
That is pretty mental. I mean, you literally saw the level 1 trade. I think the only thing that really swung it back in favor was the fact that Nuq took that extra turret shot. I feel like with that extra, and especially you consider how much damage...
I think it was the junglers.
Well, yeah, obviously the junglers was the final blow, but you talk about just in terms of building that level advantage in the level 1-2 mark, it would have been even more if you think about how much turrets give you in terms of damage on this 12.10 patch. It really would have made up the difference. But yeah, obviously didn't have the most beneficial of wave states after that gate gank pop. Now paid dividends. Chigenda's up quite a bit of CS in a lane that he really shouldn't be.
Just have that spellbook ignite, and it's worth mentioning, there's a real world where Sagenda finds a solo kill. Once he's got mana back, spellbook ignite on an Ornn, kind of scary. Up against a Graves who, granted, has the quick draw, but I would say a fair portion of Graves' or of Ornn's damage comes from magic damage. The quick draw not going to do you too much to prevent that. So there's a slight threat that this counter pick in the top side for Sagenda actually has carry power.
Jessica goes aggressively here, uses the ultimate. Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes out in response. They've gone rather aggressively here. Can Viner find the counter engage is the question here. A lot of damage coming out from Smiley. Skeens is here though. They need to finish off Dractroll if they're going to do anything. Viner has gone in. Skeens is going to be the first one on here. Ronaldo here. Can he find the bubble? It goes onto the minion, unfortunately. I believe that is going to be the end of our play here. Ultimate not faded both directions. Important to note was Dractroll not quite pinged over to that level 6 mark. So we have a hostile takeover to go for.
And good turn from Go, honestly. They burned the flash from Jack Troll, and that's honestly the most important cooldown that we get to see expended. Enchanted Crystal Arrow is obviously a very good tool for picks in the mid lane, in the top lane, wherever they end up looking to try and make those plays. But for the time being, with that being down, there's not really too much open to Go. I think that they're making the right moves. That was a bit of a response play that was set up by Vitality.Bee looking for that fight. I want to see them utilize this Ashe, utilize this Zoe to try and find themselves their own little advantages, make sure that they can really try and bully. And I think in this mid lane, like I've mentioned, is probably the prime place to do so. But Jeskla could be here first. Classic level 6 Twitch.
This is Twitch here. Ronaldo has to flash out. Diplex has the quickness though. Smiley's over the wall as well. Skeens needs to find a reset. Ronaldo's over. He is the fortunate victim of that Zoe ult coming back here. Kareem might have to flash as well here. Skeens goes over the wall for the reset. Vignerum is there. Kareem with the R2. Diplex is in. Conqueror stack. Skeens tries to find it, but plant over the wall is going to supplant any chances that Chigenda, Vitality.Bee, he's not anywhere near, but any chances that Vitality.Bee had of furthering their odds in this fight. They do manage to find that crucial pick onto Ronaldo. Just going to give gold over to Twitch.
Really, just a nice play through the mid lane. Really good to see. It's one of those things that mid laners don't tend to expect. You're looking at the sides of your map, you're thinking, okay, where's the support? Where's the top laner? Where's the jungler? But never normally, where's the ADC? Jeskla on the Twitch has that ability to not just come from, the sides of the lane, can just walk through the middle of it, and it's really difficult, and it is a presence of mind thing that you get from experience, right? You play against Twitch once or twice, and you start to remember, this is why it's annoying, and unfortunately, Ronaldo doesn't quite have that to begin with. Has to be constantly fearful of Jeskla ganks. It's not something that, like we say, we tend to attribute to ADCs, but certainly something that needs to be considered.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. I think it's something that needs to be accounted for Team Go's composition. Obviously, there's going to be a certain level of confidence that comes from their ability to pick, but they do obviously have the ability to get picked off themselves by that Twitch later on. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the late game as well. And now with that accelerated kill, it is really what Vitality.Bee want. Now I'm interested to see, with this second dragon spawning up, seems to be the case that the bot lane of Vitality.Bee are going to move in towards it. It was obviously in the top side though.
Really good composition around objectives for Go. Zoe trying to find bubbles over terrain. Ashe trying to set up for picks. Anybody that gets a little bit caught out, a little bit overextended, should be fair game for Go to try and pull the trigger and get that engage going on too. With obviously this early game dragon stacking, we're hoping to see Go try and get there, get those leads through the dragons, because otherwise, we mentioned we're fairly scared for the late game 5v5 team fighting that Vitality.Bee are going to have. Second Drake is up and live. It's a Hextech Dragon, I believe, with neither team particularly.
Comes Jeskla onto Smiley. Skeens is over the wall as well. Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes out, but that's the cleanse, and it's a quick kill. We spoke about how there needs to be a cognizance from Team Go around that Twitch, and it's not the case, and it now means the Vitality.Bee are going to be able to stifle that Dragon win condition that we spoke about being so important for Go.
Twitch again, just popping out of stealth. This is just really showing me unfamiliarity with what you need to be playing with respect to. And the Twitch in itself is certainly getting a lot of reward. Jessica is playing this very well, has moved into the mid lane, moved into the bot lane, and picked up kills very nicely. Wagner and potentially in a bit of trouble, but does have the support of his top and jungle very nearby. Kareem with the Rift Herald looking to free up Nuki.
Smiley's in trouble though. Can't really walk past this bot lane here because Beans is there. Been zoned off about 4 waves now. Not fun for Smiley. He is not smiling. He is what's the opposite of a smile? He's frowny right now.
Frowny or yeah, definitely. I was gonna go for a frowny or crowny joke, and it just really didn't work. So I vetoed it immediately.
He's not in the game, bro, dude. That's a different team.
I know. That's why he got vetoed. But I still felt like I had to explain myself because it was such a delay.
Well, that's a good. You've set me up for a wonderful joke when BDS Academy does play Go, which they might have done already. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, either way, when they do,
Crowny versus Crowny is going to be the matchup of the century.
As long as Crowny starts winning.
Yeah, it does have to happen. You know, League of Legends is like wrestling, rude dude. It's all it's all scripted.
Oh, true. Yeah, I mean, well, don't tell everybody. But
God, I was muted. I thought I was muted. Sorry, my bad. Anyway, back to the realms of seriousness. There are serious odds now in facing down Go in terms of I feel like they needed to get this set up that doesn't fall apart during the early game. It's not. I don't think it's fallen apart. There's definitely some weaknesses that have been found. But Twitch having these 2 kills and being accelerated, I have severe concerns. I think Go have really good setup around these objectives with all the engaged tools that they have, and then trying to Crystal Arrow, the quickness, and Ronaldo on this Zoe. But my main issue is once you get to a point where those objectives no longer matter, where is the consistent damage source to deal with, for like, for example, Shigenda? I feel like you're going to have an Ashe that is just putting out a lot of front-to-back damage. And, for example, like Ronaldo, Nuku is not going to be able to do much unless Nuku gets towards this LDR level. It's interesting to see what kind of build he goes for. I think he has to go for that to be a relevant damage source in the side lane.
Yeah, and it's one of those games where I would have liked to honestly just see a more... Okay, fight ball.
Ultimate onto Renata here. Jack Troll gets engaged on. He has flash, but it's going to be too late. Uses that W on himself, but it's a big turnaround. Hostile takeover. Ignite is ticking onto Kareem with the poison. It's not going to mean a return 2 for 1, but it is a 1 for 1 there. You didn't think it was going to look too good after that. This could have even gone a bit more aggressive as well.
Yeah, played with fairly safe eyes in mind right there, and certainly didn't go too far forward. Really good play by the bot lane of Vitality.Bee, though, capitalizing on what was a very aggressive maneuver from Kareem and Wagner. Really good to see them capitalize, like I say, on the overextension and on that 2v3 that they were somehow able to turn around for a 1 for 1. Now we get to see Nuki on a bit of a trouble.
Yu walks into the bushes. Again, channels the Ornhorn here. Skeen's not going to be able to get in too close there. He has to flash, though.
This is going to be a fun interaction to track. Smokescreen versus Ornhorn. If Sajenda gets blinded every time he calls the Ornhorn, it's going to be very difficult for him to aim it. Now, keep your eyes on where these Ornhorns go and how much they whiff and how much that correlates to the smokescreen being down.
Like, smokescreen has to be like one of the most misunderstood abilities in League of Legends.
What do you mean by misunderstood?
Well, I feel like when I first started playing League of Legends, I was just like, oh, it's just like useless. It just doesn't do anything, and like, you just use it whenever. But you could actually like so much disruption. Not even just into the Ornn this game, like also into the Twitch as well if he engages. Going blind once he opens with that ult. Speaking of people who are blind, Nuku none the wiser to this. Does actually dodge out from the E here, but he's going to be getting stunned up. Doesn't have that ult. Ashe ult does come out in response here. Good response. One more. Alright, would have done it. Skeen's repossessed. And it is going to be Nuku trying his hardest there, but there's just too many people here. There's 4 people here. See what Go can do in response. Get position off the Dragon, I'd imagine.
Yeah, a bit too much for Nuku to try and deal with here. The Eclipse did give him a fair shield and a decent chance at surviving that. Unfortunately, just not quite enough in the arsenal. Potentially, if you had that flash available, may have been able to get away from it a little bit extra, but nevertheless, it's not going to be the case. The Drake most likely going to be at least contested. I imagine 35 seconds is a fair time, and it does give Nuku ability to come back up to respawn. Complete control of the bot side should be in favor of Go. They sort of sacrificed the top lane prio in exchange for getting this. Vitality.Bee recognize that the mid lane is kind of forfeit with all that control around the river, and they go for the mid lane turret and get it quite happily. Wagner and Kareem are sort of walking.
Enchant a Crystal Arrow that's been stolen onto Wagner. He's going quite low here. Hostile takeover. He does manage to dodge out from. Kareem's gone into clone here. Ronaldo comes with a bit of return fire, but it is a stalemate in the mid lane as the dragon spawns. Important cooldowns that have been burned are that quickness, all the side of Go, Wukong ult as well.
Yeah, and hostile takeover not being there, but you saw the zoning pressure that ability gives. You see Jack Troll fire it out toward 3 people, they all immediately turn tail and sprint away. And that, you know, in and of itself has been enough to force a good fight in favor of Vitality.Bee, which leads them to go down to this dragon and pick up another ocean dragon, or their first ocean dragon rather. And you know, we like to touch on what each Drake tends to mean if we get souls on either team. Vitality.Bee are going to be very happy with this ocean soul because they've got a very beefy frontline in Sagenda who's going to be very difficult to take down. We touch on the lack of consistent damage that we see thus far, particularly with Nuke opting toward that collector as a second item, but also because the pick-oriented nature of Go have this window. They're not 5 seconds before, when we're looking at their pick-oriented comp, it's based off of one part of CC hitting, and then a couple of seconds later, more damage coming through. The Lycans of an Ashult, of a Zoe bubble, and then a potential engage that comes forward. Ocean Dragon, very good for Vitality.Bee this game.
Yeah, completely agree. I feel like it just, with the Ornn, it makes him even more unkillable, right? And just a lot of the passive healing you're going to be able to get from that really just helps in terms of, it's not quite the mountain that you would have hoped for in a scenario like this, I feel like. You know, into the instant burst of a lot of these champions, you would have liked a bit of extra shielding. It's probably your second best option. Actually, no, I think you would have quite liked a Hectic Dragon as well, maybe. But it's one of the options that exists between 1 to 4. Probably not the top 2, so not the best, actually. But I still think it's relatively good for their competition.
Yeah, and also, to touch on, you know, I think that there are 3 good dragons and the 2 kind of situational dragons, but we'll have to hold that.
He gets engaged on here. Diplex has the quickness, though, but gets ignited in return. He comes out, Zoe bubble onto him. No fight that needs to massively be happening around here. You see Shigenda is roamed into the mid lane. He might be able to use the Ornn Horn if he finds it. Right,
Cyclone burns, so Go don't have good fights.
Has been engaged on, but he's going to be going here. Here comes the Ornn Horn. Magnum's over the wall. They try and find it onto Ronaldo. They can't quite do it. Ronaldo has flash if he needs it. Does have to use it eventually, but Magnum on a ward here. Uses the quickness to get out. It's a flash forward from Diplex. It's going to be an easy kill, actually. Too soon. One more W will do it. That's going to be it. Kill for Diplex and on the bot lane as well. But here, I believe just with the time frame there, it's a case that Ronaldo's not walked completely out there.
Yeah, Jessica just routed him essentially, walked around the red buff wall and was effectively cutting him off the entire time. Potentially thought that he got away with the flash, but was never able to get all the way back. But Nuke does find a trade on the top side. It is 2 kills for 2 kills. Ooh, you know, I really thought Diplex was going to go in on that. The Everfrost hit, and I was like, pause champ, maybe. Doesn't end up being the case. You know, holds the engage for just a second, and Smiley, I think, able to sustain with both summoner spells there. Gets away with stepping up to the Silas. Loses bot tier 2, loses mid tier 2. A very good overall engagement for Vitality.Bee now. 5,000 gold to the good. They sacrifice the top lane tier 2 and a bit of gold onto Nuke for a very beneficial fight on the bot side of the map. Jessica now 3-0-1 has completed that Kraken Slayer. Means that he can cut through everybody on the team with a lot more ease now.
Yeah, completely. I think that's an important thing to draw attention to. Rude dude. Enchanted Crystal Arrow does come out from Diplex. Quite. Oh, I was about to say.
Beautiful.
I was about to say a bit of a wishful thinking there, but it lands straight into the face of Magnum. Has no time to react there. He's stunned up long enough. Skeens goes in for an aggressive trade here. Ronaldo is forced. Has the flash though, but Skeens over the wall straight away. And this is you started talking about how Go options to maybe hang on. They've fallen apart now, and Vitality.Bee are entering that point in the mid game where they become unstoppable, and you're starting to see it. They're ramping up the Baron now.
And, you know, there's a certain point where Go in the side lane with Nuke are going to start taking inhibitors. Fortunately, that point is not now. And Vitality.Bee do not care to lose a bot tier 2 when they're going to be getting the Baron buff. They take down the mid laner, and that is all that they want. Kareem is spotted on a ward here. Jack Troll himself just marking the jungler, not allowing any way into the pit. Double smites come through, and a very nice engagement as Nuke not even able to get this bot tier 2. It is Diplex that TP's on down. They don't want to take a fight. 2.5 items on the Graves, 2.5 items on the Silas. Neither one of the two particularly fussed about fighting for that engagement. And honestly, I think that it's weird to say, but when you try and force a little bit more there, you've lost the Baron on one side. If you can try and take a quick fight there, you're potentially going to get something back, and a little bit of a waste opportunity, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the big questions going into this game was, can Go get off their early aggressive skirmish style? Is really a big question mark for me, because that seems to be a style that Vitality.Bee can falter again. One of their only losses coming against just falling behind in the early game. And I feel like Go, with what they've drafted, is not necessarily early game oriented. I feel like it has a nice foil to what Vitality.Bee does, in terms of Vitality.Bee will win you straight up 5v5, but Go are really enabled to find these picks. So it acts as a good contrast, but I feel like they needed to play more in the contrast between the teams. Play more to their strong suits. I would have liked a slightly different draft from them. I feel like Nuku as a player is really known, and when he looks good is when he's able to find these champions that can get these really strong flanks. So Rakali, for example. Graves not really his champion, I feel like. He's just not really able to do much.
He's continually pushing in the side lane. I think he's using Graves to the best of Graves' ability by doing that. I don't mind that he's obviously in that side lane. The issue, of course, comes into the fact that he's literally pushing into a brick wall, which shotguns don't have the best time at going up against. Agenda has gone for just the most brutal build path to play against as an AD carry. Frozen Fist into the Frozen Heart, first of all, lowering the attack speed and obviously taking a lot less damage due to the amount of armor that you build up, and then, of course, the glacial there that makes it so difficult to really get anywhere away from the Ornn if you end up getting engaged on by him. But you can see, like, that tier 2 turret barely took any damage. There was a window there where Kareem was looking to potentially hover. Could be a fight topside here. A lot of people around. Bubble does land, but it's onto the wrong target.
It's a very, very brave teleport from a very, very brave man made of stone. Again, that goes in there, takes barely any damage. He's leading the charge, so to speak, down to about 50% now. Calls in the Ornn. Dream finds the engage now. Enchanted Crystal Arrow, a lot has been used on Shikenda. Look at the counter look at the side from Vikram. He finds the quickness, but nothing has been found yet. Diplex finds the return kill, Jeskler. And they're just throwing bricks at Vitality.Bee, but Vitality.Bee use those bricks to build their own foundations. Ronaldo's up, but he soon is going to be down. It's a man down for Manchester. Ronaldo soon to be chopped on the chopping board. Vitality.Bee knocking at the gates now. He'll be walking away happy with that inhibitor.
Nice little team fight. Great engagement, and we get to see the power of an Ornn. Right there, Smiley was wailing away for a good 10-15 seconds, but the Ornn stood firm beneath the turret, beneath the rain down of damage that came from Smiley. There was just not enough there. Not enough in the tank for the Ashe to cut through this Ornn at this point, and Sagenda, I really like this game from him. He's, you know, put the ego aside, put the prejudice of us saying he's a great carry player, put all of that aside and said, if the team needs it, I will play Ornn. And this game round, you know, it's not a flashy performance, it's not the dazzling plays of a Gangplank, but it's just good, honest top lane.
Yeah, I think one of the main problems, and I think it's something we haven't quite highlighted, but it's in a main issue for Go so far. It's constantly picking up these enchanted crystal arrows. One of the problems you run into running these kind of like single identity compositions, whereby Go's very much is like Nuku has to go into side lane and they have to look for picks, right? But the problem with that is with the pick like Silas, you just kind of return back what is being sent towards you, return to sender, and they're able to constantly look for picks themselves.
Schemes okay, a little bit further forward than maybe Nuku and Go were expecting. You can see that Nuku has completed that third item. The Lord Dominic's Regard has been finished. Jeskler.
Entry from Nuku, tries to get onto Jeskler here. Jeskler's going to go down. He has the bail out here. He finds it and he gets two there. The GP who finds with the ultimate as well, but onto Smiley here. He's going to be going down. That is Frowny. And that's going to be Nuku getting flashed onto by the Everfrost. There'll be no Sui's Go and Ronaldo. Sui Smiley's already left the game. He already knows the game is over. Unfortunately, Vitality.Bee manages to storm themselves through the game quite a dominating fashion. Let's Go. Go now 3-3. They've identified themselves as more of a middle of the pack team. Vitality.Bee with the mantle take up 5-1. Only suffering one victory so far this split. Left trying to clear out this base here. It's going to be the engage onto him. He's not long for this world. Diplex as well onto Kareem. That's going to be another knock-up from Skeens. Double kill for him. Might even try and look for Ronaldo as well, but it is going to be them onto the base now. Vitality.Bee 5-1. Up in that second place now.
A little bit of KDA coming in the fountain for the end. Very nicely done by Vitality.Bee. A deserved victory for themselves as
Nuku as well.
Yeah, Nuku, he fancied giving them an extra one. 3-19, just make that scoreline a little bit better for the Vitality.Bee squad. It is eventually Scheme 2 puts the final dint in the Nexus plus 50 to the Viego/Graves combo. Vitality.Bee 5-1 now. A very lethal threat to be going up against, a presence in the LFL that certainly needs to be recognized.